Andretti Global, a business entity led by the Andretti family, applied to the FIA for a place on the 2024 Formula One grid back in February of this year. The announcement was welcomed with open arms throughout the globe, especially in the US, where American fans hope to have a team to support after Haas sold its soul to the Russians. 6 months later, however, the process is still in question, and current F1 team principals are less than enthused about letting the Italian-American family in. Well, Mario Andretti isn't having any of it. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has somewhat become the unofficial leader of the opposition, claiming it was questionable for a new team of Andretti's caliber to add any real value to F1, per various reports. This sentiment has been widely shared by others, but Wolff's popularity and power within the F1 fraternity have exacerbated his position on the matter. Andretti is a great name. They have done exceptional things in the US. But this is sport and this is business, said Wolff, according to GP fans. We need to understand what it is you can provide to the sport, and if an OEM or multinational group joins Formula One and can demonstrate they're going to spend X amount of dollars in activating, in marketing, and in various markets. We have 10 franchises that we hope can increase the value, and you're certainly not going to increase the value by issuing new franchises to people who cannot increase the overall value of Formula One, Wolff added. Following Wolff's comments, Andretti tweeted, "This needed to be said. It's about time." No, Andretti wasn't referring to Wolff's comments, but someone's tweet asking if Wolff was too powerful for F1. While I can understand the former F1 champion's sentiments, it's worth highlighting that Wolff is hardly alone in this matter. Alfa Romeo team principal Frederic Vasseur recently shared his own opinion, which was even more direct than Wolff's. "I don't want to speak about Andretti because it's not personal, but to add another team doing the same things as the others with no big value added, I'm not sure it makes sense today," Vasseur told Racer. "Imagine if you have someone like Porsche that wants to join F1 and wants to do it on their own. Does it make sense for us to open the door? In this case, you say, yes, for sure, because it would add huge value to the paddock. Given the gigantic $200 million anti-dilution fee Andretti would have to pay current F1 teams, it seems F1 bosses are whining about the very rules they've agreed to. But how could this happen? Also, any new team would be ineligible to receive any share of FIA money for several years. Just ask Haas. The way it stands, teams are angry that F1 will have more teams to share its money with, even though they're the ones getting the $200 million, and the new team won't actually take any of their money for a long time. As Vasseur said, it'll ultimately be up to F1 and the FIA to make a decision, but he's just not sold on the deal. And despite F1's popularity surging in the US, he doesn't believe another American team would do F1 any favors. In the end, it will be up to F1 and the FIA, he told Racer, but I don't think added value can come from the nationality of a team. One of the biggest markets of F1 today is the Netherlands, and we don't have a Dutch team, we have a Dutch driver. 1978 F1 world champion Andretti isn't all happy with the Austrian, agreeing to a suggestion that Wolff has too much power in Formula One. Responding to a tweet that asked, "Is Toto Wolff too powerful for F1? Is he? Worth asking questions in this age of transparency and boom times?" Andretti replied, "This needed to be said. It's about time." Following the collapse in his negotiations to buy the Sauber team, which races under the Alfa Romeo branding, Michael Andretti announced that he would be creating his own Formula One team, Andretti Global, and applied to the FIA to become the sport's 11th team. The American put together his plans, from the location of the premises, both in the United States and in England, to an engine deal with Renault, and then he waited and waited and waited. One by one, many of the existing teams began to speak out against having an 11th team. Not so much because of the Andretti factor, but rather, as Wolff explained, because their prize money earnings would go from being divided between 10 teams to 11. "We have 10 entries today," said the Austrian. "We divide the prize fund among those 10 entries. We have invested considerable amounts over the last 10 years. I mean, each of the organizations that's sitting here on the podium has probably put more than $1 billion into the Formula One projects over the years. So it needs to be accretive. If a team comes in, how can you demonstrate that you're bringing in more money than it's actually costing? Because the 11th team means a 10% dilution for everybody else." While Wolff cannot be criticized for that, he is after all a businessman, and money is business. Formula One needs an 11th team. It needs more competition, and if Liberty Media's race into America is anything to go by, it needs another American team other than Haas, and you do not get bigger in US motorsports than Andretti. It would also mean another 2 seats opening up on the grid for juniors who are pretty much blocked from entering Formula One given the limited number of teams. If we talk more about Wolff, he still thinks about 2021 Abu Dhabi GP every day. Mercedes Formula One boss Toto Wolff has confessed that he still thinks about the events of last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix every day. At last year's F1 season finale, Lewis Hamilton had looked set to grab his 8th World Championship title after dominating most of the Yas Marina race. However, things were turned on their head when a late safety car was triggered after Nicholas Latifi crashed his Williams. During the restart, then F1 race director Michael Masi did not follow the correct procedures, selectively allowing only a few backmarkers to unlap themselves and then restarting the race a lap earlier than it should have according to the regulations. That allowed Max Verstappen, who had pitted for fresh tires, one final lap to overtake Hamilton and secure the win that captured him his maiden world title. Mercedes initially protested the result and looked set to take the matter to the Court of Appeal, before eventually backing down in the interests of the sport. The FIA launched a full investigation into what happened, and Masi was moved aside as part of an overhaul of the way F1's race control was run. Wolff has admitted that he finds it hard to forget what happened. Asked by Motorsport.com in an exclusive interview if he still reflected on what happened in Abu Dhabi, Wolff said, "I think about it every day, but I have my peace with Max winning the championship, because he's a deserving champion. How it panned out, I think I have values around fairness, and especially sporting fairness. This is what provides my fundamental love for the sport." And then that was kicked with the feet on that particular day. Although many questions remain about what really happened in race control that day, especially with it emerging recently that Masi signed a non-disclosure agreement to never talk about it, the FIA has attempted to draw a line under the events. But there have been ongoing questions this year about the consistency of the new race control structure, as well as the approach and attitude of new FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Reflecting on the job that Ben Sulayem has done so far, Wolff said that some difficulties were inevitable, considering the change of approach that he was looking to bring. "I think Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the way he's hiring and recruiting, shows for me direction," he said. "Every personality has his edges, and I think the primary objective of being transparent, providing good governance, and a good framework is what I see happening. Are there going to be bumps on the road because Mohammed's organization needs to fall in place and everybody needs to find their roles? Yeah, for sure, but I'm happy with how it's going." Tell us your thoughts about all this in the comments section. Well, that's it from this video. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of our content, please subscribe to our channel. We are so glad to have you here with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.